You got the 4 games in the next 2 days. The Final Four will be on Saturday, and then the championship game next Monday. Baseball will be on Thursday, too. So you got some things going on as far as and then the Masters the week after that. So that is something that we keep an eye on. All right, let's get through a couple things right now and have some fun here as far as the program is concerned. Number one, boy, I tell you, it's almost overkill with the Nets. I mean, Durant, all right. Irving, okay. Here's Harden. We'll get him in a trade. Griffith gets bought out. We'll bring him in. And what the hell, LaMarcus Aldridge, we'll get him too. I mean, it gets to be a joke after a while. I know they want to win it, but my gosh, every old veteran who hasn't won a championship figures he's going to come to the Nets and sit on the bench and get his 4 minutes in a big game at the end of the year, and they have a chance to win it. I mean, that ring, it doesn't mean that much to me. If LaMarcus Aldridge wins a ring with the Nets, in the end of the day, does that mean he's a champion? No, it doesn't. Aldridge has been a good player, has had a good career, but just because he wins he hangs around and, is the 8th man and wins a ring with the Nets, that doesn't mean anything to me. So, listen, the Nets right now, they are the team to beat in the East. I still have to put the Lakers with LeBron and Davis, and, remember, they're both out for a while, so that is a problem for them. They're going to be a low seed. Right now, if you look at the Lakers in the Western Conference, I don't think it means that much home court with them, but if you did look at the Lakers right now in the West, they are currently the 4th seed, and they are not that far away from dropping all the way down into that 7th spot based on the fact that they don't have LeBron and Davis for a long period of time. They have 17 losses. Denver right behind them has 18, sort of the Trailblazers at 18, and San Antonio has 20. So they're in a situation, they're obviously going to get in, don't get me wrong, but I would be a little worried about, they're going to be way down there at the bottom of the barrel. And not just what that means is that the Lakers are going to have to play a lot of good teams right away. Usually they get a layup. Maybe right out of the gate, they get a series they can win, home court the whole bit. Last year they had to play Portland, which wasn't easy. So maybe last year wasn't the case. But if you're the 1 seed, sometimes you get that team in that first round that, is just happy to be there. They're barely 500, and away you go. Lakers are not going to be in that spot. They're no LeBron, for a month, what I read, and Davis is still ways away, according to Frank Vogel. But again, as long as the Lakers make the playoffs and they get those 2 guys healthy, that is all they have to do. The Nets, on the other hand, they are bringing in a lot of guys with a rookie coach, and they're going to have to hope that they find some chemistry. They've done a great job in the last 20 games. They haven't had Durant. Irving plays when he wants to play. They haven't had Durant, and, they won 17 of their last 20. And that's because Harden, who I don't like, as we all know, has been great. And the Nets right now, they're the 2nd seed in the East. They are 31-15. They're in a battle with Milwaukee and Philly for the top slot. They're not going to be any worse than 3. They can be as high as 1. I'm not sure what that might mean at the big picture. You'd rather not. You know what it does mean? I'll tell you what it means. If you're you'd want to be the 1 seed because there's such a drop-off after the 3rd seed. See, if you're the if you're the 2 seed or a 3 seed, you're going to have to play the Bucks. Say the Nets and you're the 2 seed. You're going to have to play the Bucks in the second round of the playoffs. While if you're the 1 seed, the 76ers can play with the Bucks, and you can sit there and, get through with Charlotte or Atlanta or Boston or the Knicks, somebody along those lines. You get a much easier series. So that's the only advantage to be the 1 seed. I do not know if the Nets will be motivated by that. Because if they are into it, they're going to be as good as anybody, and they have been phenomenal now. They have played very well with Irving. Durant is a guy who can fit in with anybody. He proved it with Golden State. And Aldridge and Griffith, I think, are going to be so happy to be there. Nets are tough. It's going to be hard not to think the Nets can't get to the NBA Final. Now, there's going to be a lot of pressure on them. There's going to be a lot of pressure on them because they have to win it all. But still, and it's going to be a joke with everybody joining them now. Who's next? We'll bring Porzingis over here, too, because he wants to win. How many guys, they end up with the Nets because, they want to win a title. And so Aldridge comes here, Griffin comes here. Gets to be a joke after a while. And Durant never plays. Durant never plays. I know they're being extra careful with him. He never plays. And that's the problem that the NBA's regular season has. They try to make it a big deal, but the players and teams on a weekly basis, on a yearly basis now for a long time, they treat the regular season as a complete joke. They pick their slots on when they want to go out there and play hard. They do the load management scenario. These guys, they look at it as almost, they know that once they get into the postseason, they can beat anybody anyway. They don't need the home court, so they treat the NBA regular season as basically a layup line, and it's a problem. But right now, Nets and Lakers. The Lakers, you got to be a little worried about where they're going to fall with the seed, and you got to worry about LeBron and Anthony Davis. But when healthy, they are the two best players in the league, just about. Nets and Lakers in the final. So the NBA is interesting there. That's number one. Number two, Lindor of the Mets had a big powwow and a dinner with Steve Cohen on Saturday night. Now, I have said this from day one, and I will repeat this. I don't think Lindor wants to sign a contract with anybody prior to October. I think Lindor does not want to sign a long-term contract with the Mets. Not to say he doesn't want to play for the Mets, but I think he wants to play it out, have his season, see what New York is like, see what the Dodgers do with Seager. I think he's got his eyes on L.A., and not be in a situation where he's forced to agree to a deal prior to Thursday. His self-imposed deadline, making sure a contract extension gets signed before opening day. Thursday at 7 o'clock is opening day. The Mets are right now about 72 hours away from that. When the owner wants to take out the dinner in Port St. Lucie, Florida on a Saturday night, you have to go. So everybody's going to make a big deal about them getting to know each other this past weekend down in Port St. Lucie. But if the owner, who's worth about $13 billion, if he says, Francisco, I want to take you out to dinner just to get to know you a little bit, you and I haven't talked yet, what are you going to do, say no on a Saturday night in Port St. Lucie? You're going to look bad if you do. So you have to say, you have no choice. You have to say, you don't want to rule the Mets out entirely from a signing perspective. But I actually think most of it by his actions, another part of it based on what a couple of writers told me on TV. I don't think he's in love with signing a long-term contract. Now, he might be forced into it because the Mets might offer him such a great deal, and he's going to look bad if he doesn't sign it. But I'll stick to that Lindor, and I might be wrong, and they might get something done tomorrow. Who knows? But, he hasn't signed yet. Opening day is in 48 hours, 72 hours, whatever it is. We'll see. That's a lot of money to negotiate in 3 days. We shall see about Lindor. I think he just as well play it out, see where the cookie crumbles in October, rely on his great abilities, had a good spring training, know he's going to be loved by the New York fan base, figuring he's going to have a good season. And then he's got the Dodgers in the rearview mirror with Seager, who have obviously an issue with him. Seager is, what Seager's going to do with L.A. is interesting. And, he knows if Seager leaves, they can bring Lindor in and he can play for the Dodgers. Now, that's my take on it. So we shall see here as far as Lindor goes. I wouldn't be so sure if I'm a Met fan that he's going to sign anytime soon. That is item number two. Item number three, we mentioned this about 2 hours ago, or an hour and a half ago. Another SI tracked down one of these massage therapists who has not yet sued Watson. So she is not a plaintiff in the case. She has not sued him, but she gave Deshaun Watson a massage. It was recently in Houston, backdoor entrance and everything else, and she gave explicit detail what that was about, and essentially said that it was really inappropriate. He didn't obviously force any sexual actions on her, but very inappropriate with what Watson did. Did not give her name to Sports Illustrated. She did tell SI somebody to talk to who she spoke to as soon as the massage was over. I think the massage was sometime in 20. I don't remember when it was. And that SI called a family member who basically did it verbatim, word for word, told SI what the massage lady told them to confirm her account. And she was pretty explicit. Again, she's not only coming out because she basically wants to help her profession and wants Watson to apologize. Doesn't want a nickel, but it looked bad. Watson's in trouble here. This is all there is to it. They can sit there, Rusty Harden and his minions can sit there all day and can claim that, somebody's trying to blackmail them to get money, and maybe they're one of the 19 is trying to do that. Who knows? But the bottom line is it doesn't look good for Watson. He is. I don't think he's going to play next year. He's certainly not going to. I don't think he's going to be traded. Nobody's going to trade for him, and I think that's going to be a dicey scenario here with Watson for 2000. He's not going to get his wish getting out of Houston, and Houston's not going to get their wish till they get him back playing at the position. I think he's in a tricky spot. I think next year he's not going to play. I think he's going to get a suspension, and a long one. That's number 2. Number 3, the Jets are going to draft this Zach Wilson. They have fallen in love with him already. Good-looking kid. I guess he was phenomenal with his workout. Douglas and company were there in Provo. The Jets are going to draft him with that second pick. Now, we shall see how great he's going to be. I guess he wowed him on Friday afternoon. He certainly, he seemed to say the right things following it. He was excited the Jets were there, the whole bit. Here are the 3 questions I would have about Wilson if I was Douglas, the Jet general manager, or Saleh, the new head coach. Here's the 3 things. I'd want to investigate this. If Wilson is so good, and a no-brainer, Patrick Mahomes, then why did he come into camp last summer as the BYU quarterback when he didn't have the job? He was sort of like he had to fight for his spot. If he was so good and such great arm and mobility and all these things, then why in the world going into his whatever year it was this past year, he had to fight for his supper over the summertime? I'd want to know that. I mean, wouldn't you think that this guy's got all this physical ability? It'd be a no-brainer that he'd be the starting quarterback as camp began last summer, and I guess that wasn't the case. That is question number 1. Question number 2, I would want to, I haven't looked at the game, but I would want some clarification on the competition level for the BYU opponent this year, and I'd want a little information regarding the Coastal Carolina game, which he was, very average in that game. I think they lost 21-17, maybe 24-17. I don't know what the statistics were. I have looked them up. I think he threw 1 touchdown pass, 1 interception. I think he threw for 190 yards. I can look at it, but they lost to Coastal Carolina on the road, granted, but they lost to Coastal Carolina, and he was, very average in the game. Now, if you're a great player in college, you got to be able to beat Coastal Carolina, especially when they're undefeated. I like to know. I like to do a little digging about what happened in that game. Off game, his fault. Every other game they blew people out. Did the pressure get to him a little bit? He tried too hard. I like to find out something about that Coastal Carolina game. And on the same token, I want to know a little bit about the caliber of the opposition. Remember, we have seen a lot of quarterbacks drafted high in the last 5 or 6 years, and a lot of them been, either traded or haven't been very good. Goff, that's what Wentz. Not very good. You certainly could Donald, not very good. There's a lot of guys who you can claim right now, out of what they, Winston, Mariota. I mean, the last 5-7 years, who, when you think about it, have really kind of been disappointing. So you got to make sure you get this right. I want that question answered about Wilson. And number 3 about Wilson, I would like to. He wasn't named the team captain until the year was underway. Now, maybe it was because he wasn't, the starting quarterback in camp, so they didn't name him the captain. I think it was voted by the players, and they didn't name him the captain. I mean, I got to find out why. That quarterback's the most important player on the team, and, he's going to be the second pick in the draft. I got to find out why in the world he wasn't the captain. This is BYU now. This is not Alabama. This is BYU. Is it a big deal? No. But if I'm going to invest, all this money in him, and I'm going to put my life on the line with the second pick, I got to find that out. Those are the questions I want answered if I was Douglas. And I'm sure he'd do his due diligence. That's number 3. And then finally today, and we're going to get him on, which is a break, Ronald Brownstein has written and we talked about this with McAdam last week, this book, and I've only read 60, I'll tell you the exact amount, 66 pages. This book on L.A. in 1974, Brownstein, has been up for the Pulitzer Prize, CNN. I mean, this guy's a big-time guy. Rock Me on the Water, which is the name of a Jackson Browne song. I don't think it's the name of the song. I think that's a verse in the song. I have to go back and look. My Jackson Browne historical knowledge has been a little off. I haven't really followed it that carefully in the last couple of years. But that is a Jackson song. And Jackson in the early 70s splurged on a scene. This book is about the political, Hollywood, music, TV, All in the Family, Mary Tyler Moore, the entertainment industry with Nicholson, and a guy like, for instance, Warren Beatty, the musical stuff with Ron Stott and Jackson Browne. This book is great. It's got Laurel Canyon written all over it. telling you right now. And I'm only gotten to 65 pages of it. It's about 450 pages. This book, the first chapter, he breaks it down via the month. So he just talks about 1974, and the first chapter is the month of January, and he spends 30 pages talking about the relationship with Nicholson and Warren Beatty, and how Bonnie and Clyde was the big movie for Beatty in 1967, and how Easy Rider for Jack was his big movie in 1969. And then the second chapter, which I'm on right now, is about Jackson and Linda Ronstadt, early 70s. I mean, the book is great. Great. So I think we've reached out. I don't know if he knows us, but we'll see if we can do a little something with Ronald Brownstein sometime in the next few weeks. This book it came out on March 23rd. So it came out last Tuesday. This book is great. Great book. Rock Me on the Water, Ronald Brownstein. We'll take a timeout. We continue. We're at Mad Dog Nation.